Ja bym oglądał ten dokument o Diddym. To mnie interesuje. Szczególnie, że Trap Lord Ross robi dojebane dokumenty. A wyszła nowa część? Nie no, ja trójkę oglądałem przecież. Mocarz materiał? Co z tym Diddym? No co z tym Diddym? Dalej siedzi. Ale mamy ogólnie taki rundown tego, co tam się działo. A jeżeli chodzi o rzetelność materiałów, to w Trap Lord Rossa wierzę. Bo bardzo, bardzo fajne filmy robi. Od dłuższego czasu lubię sobie pooglądać. On też mocno formę swoich filmów zmienił. Nie wiem, czy wy śledzicie jego kanał. Ale on kiedyś robił takie krótsze dokumenty, które były pisane bardziej humorystycznie. I on trochę to pozmieniał, że teraz robi to bardziej rzetelnie, o wiele dłuższe materiały i chwyta się takich cięższych tematów. Już mówiłeś, że chyba o bloku nagrywał kilkugodzinny film. Znaczy ogólnie jego teraz chyba najpopularniejszy materiał to jest ten o Wonie. King Von, jego chyba najlepszy piece of work, jaki kiedykolwiek wydał. Też chyba największe echo się rozeszło po tym. Później zrobił 6-godzinny materiał, kurwa, o Young Boyu, który też oglądałem, co prawda na raty, ale dalej. No on robi naprawdę mocny content, Imo. Taki konopski, tylko że USA? Absolutnie nie. Nie obrażaj mi stary Trap Lord Rossa. Chociaż okulary ma podobne. Dobra, odpalamy to gówno.
Diddy.
Lord Ross to coś jak Rick Ross? No kurwa, niekoniecznie. Odpalę wam automatycznie generowane napisy, bo po angielsku to powinno działać.
In recent years, this R&B and hip-hop icon has faced a storm of allegations and controversies which culminated in a dramatic arrest in 2024. But anyone that's followed Diddy closely will know that this is nothing new. His whole career has been plagued by questionable moments since he found fame in the 90s. From being a street hustler to becoming a billionaire business mogul, Diddy has personified what it means to live the American dream. But behind his career, there's been endless allegations on the dark activities he was allegedly indulging in behind the scenes. And racketeering, charges that would lead to a downward spiral of the once powerful industry titan. His attorney would call it an unjust prosecution, as countless lawsuits would ensue, tainting the image of the once respected and globally renowned voice of his generation. In November 2023, his ex, Cassie Ventura, filed a lawsuit claiming sexual assault and abuse, even alleging that Diddy had forced her to engage with male workers while he watched. This all-encompassing lawsuit revealed some of the sordid details about Diddy's private life to the public for the first time ever. Though he's never been
Ale ze wszystkich zarzutów to i tak jeden z lżejszych ogólnie.
Convicted of crimes yet. Diddy's history is riddled with violent allegations from various victims, exes, and industry figures. Diddy's attorney vehemently denies Cassie's claims, framing her lawsuit as an attempt to blackmail over $30 million from him. And while the ex-couple reached a settlement in November last year, the wave of lawsuits didn't stop. It was only the beginning of a stream of suits and cases that continues to this day with no end in sight. As we explore Diddy's timeline of controversies, one thing is clear: his legacy will be forever altered and tainted by the drama, no matter what the jury decides. But finding himself in court is nothing new to the Diddler. In fact, ever since his career started in the
Diddler, podoba mi się, jakie on nickname w ogóle zdobył na przestrzeni lat.
90s, he's been in and out of court constantly, in a revolving door of allegations which he impeccably has managed to dodge and finesse his way out of for over 3 decades. Perhaps this case in 2024 will be the one that seals Diddy's fate and takes him off the streets for good. But in this video, we'll be exploring the dozens of times that Diddy has found himself in court to build up a picture of how this bulletproof bad boy inexplicably has managed to dodge justice time and time again in over 20 court cases, and how he...
Ta animacja, kurwa, z Baby Oil. Zacina obraz? Kurwa, nie wiem, czy Twitch czegoś nie odpierdala. Cały czas wam przycina?
shamelessly bragged about using his finances to pervert the course of justice at the expense of his accusers. But before we get to the endless court battles, to understand Diddy's journey truly, we need to go back to where it all began, exploring his early childhood and the challenges that shaped him, as well as the pivotal events that set him on a path towards fame and controversy, including the very first lawsuits that would ultimately come to define the rest of his life.
Dajcie mi na wszelki przechwytywarkę może zresetuję, ale z tego co widzę to u mnie działa wszystko, więc to musi coś Twitch odpierdalać. Mnie osobiście historia Diddy'Ego w chuj interesuje, bo to jest gość, który był no przy najbardziej legendarnych erach kurwa hip-hopu, nie? To jest gość, który był zamieszany przecież w sprawę z Paciem i z Biggiem. To jest gość, który był zamieszany z karierą tak wielu kurwa twórców. Te jego dramy z 50 Centem. To jest popierdolone. A plotki, które o nim krążą, są pojebane. Ty, jest jeszcze gorzej? Ty, kurwa, nie, ty nie, może to ja gubię? Dajcie mi sekundę. Kurwa, nie rozumiem trochę tego. Ty, nie, to czekaj, to mi przechwytywarka gubi w OBS-ie, what the fuck? Nie gubię klatek jakby w samym OBS-ie, tylko jakby przechwytywarka się jebała. O, zmieniłem na 2K, jest chyba płynne. Kurwa, ty. Tylko full screen się pierdoli, nie? What? Coś od Diddy'Ego nie chce, żebym film oglądał chyba. Dobra, chuj, będziemy oglądać bez full screena po prostu. Tyle.
you're gonna hear about my parties. They're gonna be shutting them down. They're gonna probably be arresting me, doing all types of crazy things just because we want to have a good time, you know.
What you got to say now?
Disturbing new video appears to support some of the accusations of abuse against music mogul Sean Diddy Combs.
We want to warn you that this video you're about to see is extremely graphic. Inside of a Los Angeles hotel in 2016 allegedly shows Combs assaulting then-girlfriend Cassie Ventura in a hallway.
If you don't have what they need, they're
To
gonna leave.
2016, to nie było tak dawno temu.
Right, gotta keep them there.
Right.
You need locks on the doors.
What's next? Give me something else. What can't you do? I can do it. I can do anything.
I want to say it to you all face to face. I had nothing to do with
8 lat, no dobra, no ale mówi jak on długo kurwa działa na scenie, względem tego jak długo on tu siedzi, no to jest względnie nowa sprawa.
shooting that night in the nightclub.
Told me every day I want to just thank God for just being here for me and just protecting me. My lawyers.
Podobną historię miał mój nauczyciel matematyki, no nie wiem. Co to jest kurwa za edit?
Listen, 7 years ago, I'd have been like, yo, did you hire somebody to kill Bob? But no, you have to do it like a journalist.
Yeah, no, I mean, we wouldn't even get into nonsense like that. You know what I'm saying? It's nonsense.
Which you never believed, by the way.
Yeah, thank you.
The situation's in the courts now, so I'm gonna share with y'all what I can. This is all public record.
Department of
No
Homeland
nie wiem, czy chcę
Security
ufać w jego
conducting
słowa.
a raid at a house in Holmby Hills connected to Sean Combs, the rapper and music executive, perhaps being linked to a investigation.
Sex trafficking ring.
Started out as a basketball match between rap stars, the Heavy D and Puff
Ile to
Daddy
musi być w
charity
montażu? Stary, to jest tylko 1,5 godziny. Ja ci mówię, on z Youngboyem zrobił kurwa 6-godzinny dokument.
basketball game benefit.
No to jest researchu przede wszystkim.
Put him on suicide watch.
Oh, he wanted to kill himself.
Yeah.
I mean, I can imagine. I mean, you feel partially responsible for 9 people dying, including a pregnant woman, which is technically 10 if you think about it.
We live in a toxic world, and it's love versus hate. That's what's going on right now.
Yeah.
And I choose love. That's my new name, and love wins. Love wins. Let's go.
Według mnie tak, Stanley. Ale o Wonie jest dalej najlepszy, jeżeli szukasz jakiegoś takiego fajnego dokumentu od Rossa. Czemu on wygląda jak Kevin Hart? On stary nie wygląda jak Kevin Hart, on wygląda jak czarny Megamind.
Sean John Combs was born in 1969 and spent much of his early childhood in the gritty streets of 1970s Harlem, New York, a backdrop that he described vividly in a throwback interview with Vlad TV.
I'm a Harlem boy, no disrespect to anybody. That's
Harlem to on
where my
robił.
mama's from, that's where my father's from.
Według tego,
that's
co
where my
ludzie
father
mówią.
died at, that's where I was born, that's what I represent, that's my swag. That's my tenacity. I just love being from there. That's where my soul comes
Czym było
from.
tenacity?
That hustler mentality has a lot to do with why I am who I am and why I am where I'm at today.
Diddy's mother, Janice Combs, juggled work as a model and a teacher to support her family, displaying a dedication and strength that Diddy would often reference as influential in his own life. His father, Melvin Earl Combs, had a dual life. While he worked for the New York City Board of Education and drove a
Na tym
taxi,
zdjęciu trochę Ice Cube'a przypomina, nie?
apparently he also had ties to the New York underworld, notably working with the infamous drug dealer Frank Lucas. In an interview with Vlad TV, Lucas himself touched on his connection to Melvin, painting a complex picture of the man who would ultimately shape much of Diddy's early worldview.
Me and Melvin Combs were good friends. We were good
Prawdziwa
friends.
hustlerka na obrocie olejków dla
We were
dzieci.
good friends. We did a lot of business together. Of course, it was not a legal business, but we did a lot of business together. And I was sorry to see what happened to him. That shocked the hell out of me. And the guy who did it, I'm glad he got what he got.
And I know Melvin used to come to your club, the turntable, a lot.
Yes, he did. He come there all the time. Melvin was like a lady man. Yeah, he come there all the time. He come to my club all the time. Yes, he did.
Can you say the name of your club?
The Lord Price Turntable, 52nd and Broadway.
In January 1972, tragedy struck when Melvin was shot and killed while sitting in his car on Central Park West during an alleged drug deal gone bad. According to detectives who had been involved in investigating Melvin's drug operation, he was known to drive around with large quantities of dope and also allegedly had $30,000 worth of cash on him the day he was killed. And while neither the drugs or
70.
cash were ever found on him when his
A to
body
wtedy
was
trochę inna,
discovered, it
kurwa,
would later come
waluta
out that
była.
he allegedly had owed $80,000 to what the newspaper described as the mafia.
Czekaj, inflacja kalkulator. Powiedzmy January 72 na oktober 2024. 30... Czemu nie mogę pisać? A, $30,000. 230 000 $! Kurwa, na dzisiejsze pieniądze. A wisiał 80.
Moreover, earlier in January, Combs had allegedly been arrested in his home in Yonkers, where the police would discover $75,000 worth of cocaine and $10,000 in cash, along with a stolen revolver. All these factors giving possible motives for people to take him out, but nevertheless, even after his death, a wiretap on Melvin's phone, which had also led to his arrest shortly before his murder, would ultimately take down a large drug operation worth millions. Initially, Diddy was told that his father died in a car accident, but later on, as he grew older, he sensed gaps in this story. Digging through newspaper archives, he would learn the truth that his father's death was actually connected to the drug trade. And in a video uploaded on Diddy's Revolt TV channel on YouTube, he
że żyjesz połowę swojego życia przekonany, że twój stary zginął w wypadku samochodowym, a później się okazuje, że był turbogangusem. Się dowiadujesz tego z jakichś starych wiadomości, ze starych kurwa podań w gazetach.
His father had profoundly impacted him, driving him to succeed and escape the cycle of violence that claimed his father's life.
My father.
Yeah, he escaped.
He was killed when I was 3 years old. I don't have like a lot of memories of my father. You know, they say, you know, you can't miss something you never had. So that's only a little ways right, you know. There's definitely been times as I've gotten older that I've missed my father. And, you know, his presence not being there, having somebody not to ask, like, manly advice, and just things that you would ask your father. Also things that you would celebrate with him, that would make him proud, you know. And my father was a hustler, you know. He was a drug dealer, he was a hustler. And so I learned early in life that there's only two ways
Faktem jest to smutne, nie chcę sympatyzować z Diddy. Ale jednak jest jakiś powód, dla którego, kurwa, no stał się kim się stał.
The murder left 3-year-old Diddy and his sister Keisha to be raised solely by women, his mother who would work 3 jobs to provide for the family, and his grandmother who would take the charge in looking after the children as the family would move to her apartment in the Esplanade Gardens. A large co-op housing complex opened only 5 years earlier right on the shore of the Harlem River, which at the time was hailed as an opportunity for middle-class black New Yorkers to build wealth, but has since become another example of New York's failed affordable housing initiatives. But about 9 years after the tragic loss of his father Melvin, in 1981, Diddy and his family moved to the quieter suburbs of Mount Vernon in New York. This inner suburb, located just north of the Bronx, presented a stark contrast to the gritty environment of 80s Harlem. Mount Vernon would be a new start for his family, and Diddy would describe it as a place that broadened his horizons and exposed him to new cultures and possibilities, fostering his early ambitions. In Mount Vernon, Diddy attended Mount St. Michael Academy, an all-boys private school with a focus on discipline and academics. It was here that he developed an interest in performance arts, foreshadowing his future in the entertainment world. By his teenage years, he was already making appearances as a dancer in music videos, even performing for icons like Diana Ross, which would foreshadow the flamboyant flair that he would bring to his own music videos later on. Diddy was also athletic and would run track and play in the high school's football team, even reportedly dreaming of making it to the NFL one day, until he would unfortunately break his leg, which forced him to reconsider his career choice. After high school, Diddy pursued a business degree in Howard University in Washington, D.C., and it was during his college years that his knack for organizing events and promoting himself truly emerged. Known for throwing massive parties, Diddy quickly gained a reputation on campus. These events were monumental, drawing hundreds and later thousands of attendees, including celebrities. One of Diddy's most memorable events, according to a close friend, DJ Derek Angeletti, took place at the Masonic Temple and attracted over 4,500 people. His charisma and business-minded approach made him immensely popular, and he used his newfound connections to spread his name, even distributing business cards engraved with puff, a nickname that he had allegedly gotten during his high school years while playing football, often puffing out his chest to make himself look bigger. Although on other occasions, he's reportedly claimed that he got the nickname from when he was a child, often huffing and puffing as a kid when he got angry. Now, these different versions of the story kind of raise a question as to whether any of them are actually true, or simply just different stories that he's told the media over the years. And as you'll learn over the course of this story, you really can't trust anything Diddy.
Kurwa, za każdym razem jak Ross wchodzi na tą kamerę, to tak goofy wygląda.
But it was in 1989 during his freshman year that he reconnected with his
No nigdy byś nie powiedział, że to jest gość, który będzie opowiadał o historii hip-hopu, nie?
He's told the media over the years. And as you'll learn over the course of this story, you really can't trust anything Diddy says. But it was in 1989 during his freshman year that he reconnected with his childhood friend, rapper Dwight Myers, better known as Heavy D. Heavy D, a seasoned figure in hip-hop, had recently signed to Uptown Records in New York. And over the summer of 1989, he introduced Diddy to Uptown's founder, a flamboyant music executive named Andre Harrell. Impressed by Diddy's energy and potential, Harrell offered him an internship at Uptown Records.
Jak Nardwar? Nie, jak Nardwar to on wcześniej wyglądał. On wcześniej chodził w takich kurwa deklach, znaczy te od butelki, jak się nazywa to? Takie typowo nerdowskie okulary. Czekaj, to nawet chyba na wonie miał.
Warning. This video...
A nie, to był bez okularów. Na Youngboyu? Czekaj, kurwa, nie mogę znaleźć tego. Ja pierdolę. Sekunda. O.
Warning. This video contains themes only begun to...
O, on wcześniej takie oksy. Trochę jak Denka od słoika, no.
While still a freshman in college, Diddy began working at Uptown, quickly making a mark with his relentless work ethic and eye for talent. And in no time, he was promoted to an A&R executive, responsible for discovering and nurturing new talent. By the age of 20, Diddy was already finding extraordinary success in the music industry, reportedly playing a pivotal role in developing the R&B quartet Jodeci, changing their clothing style from the glitchy glamour of 80s pop to the gritty world of hip-hop, leading the release of their 1991 hit album Forever My Lady, which would end up selling over 8 million copies worldwide. Diddy's career trajectory had been nothing short of amazing, rising from intern to A&R with a chart-topping record under his belt in just a few years' time. But just as quickly as he would gain access to the music industry, he would also begin to face controversies. His first one, in fact, being such a major tragedy that it could have, and perhaps should have, ended his career before it truly even started.
To jest pojebane, on nie był głupim gościem, ale tak zaprzepaścić, kurwa, swoje życie na takie idiotyzmy.
In November 1991, the basketball legend Magic Johnson would shock the sporting world by announcing that he was retiring from the NBA due to having tested positive for AIDS. Following this shock announcement, Diddy would reportedly get an idea to organize a charity event to raise money for the fight against the virus, which was becoming a major epidemic in the US during the early 90s. Diddy would ask a good friend, Heavy D, real name Dwight Myers, to participate in the event, which would be a celebrity basketball game and a concert that would include names like Boyz II Men, Run DMC, and Big Daddy Kane, all major names in New York's bustling rap scene at the time. The event would be held in the gymnasium of the City College of New York, located in Harlem, which at the time had a capacity for about 2,700 people. For the event, Diddy would authorize the printing of 2,000 tickets to be sold in advance, which according to the flyer for the event could be purchased at 2 locations. A clothing store called Boss Emporium, which was owned by infamous Harlem drug kingpin Kevin Childs, and the famous Apollo Theater in the heart of Harlem. Now, the first problem would arise from the fact that Diddy had seemingly added the Apollo Theater as a purchase location without first asking the theater. They would apparently decline the offer, as it was in fact owned by a company that was a competitor of the Kiss FM radio station, whom Diddy had retained in order to advertise the event. This relatively minor plunder would become exemplary of the rather nonchalant and negligent attitude that the organizers as a whole seemingly had towards this event. Another such example being the fact that Diddy would later admit that he had not read in depth the promotion contract that he had actually signed, and wasn't seemingly aware that he was actually in charge of buying insurance for the event, or the fact that there was seemingly no organization to whom part of the proceeds would be donated to, as the organization that was mentioned on the event's flyer could not legally accept this kind of donation, nor had they even allegedly been asked if such a donation would be possible. There was also seemingly confusion amongst the different parties as to who would be in charge of the security and how many guards would be attending the event, the actual number in the end being seriously undersized in relation to the size of the crowd that would turn up. On the day of the planned celebrity game, crowds would begin forming already several hours before.
A to się tak nie wydaje, ale jak robisz kurwa event na parę tysięcy osób i coś pójdzie nie tak i ty jesteś organizatorem i ty byłeś in charge of security, ubezpieczenie i tak dalej.
Event, which would actually surprise
bardzo szybko może to się skończyć tragedią.
Personnel who weren't expecting so many
Nawet mniejsze eventy na kilkaset osób, nie?
The gathering crowds would be split into 2 lines, those who had already bought tickets in advance and those who were looking to buy tickets from the gate. And at first, things appeared to be going smoothly despite the number of people looking to gain entrance to the gym being much larger than what the organizers expected, and in fact, much larger than what the gym's maximum capacity even was. However, things would begin to unravel fast when the celebrities began arriving.
Zresztą przecież idealnym tego przykładem jest Astroworld Travisa.
And with the arrival of Mike Tyson and LL Cool J bringing the crowd to a frenzy, as Gene Deal, Diddy's former bodyguard, would later describe to DJ Vlad during an interview.
I did a walk around, so I walked around the top of the floor, went down the steps and went in the gym, and then came across the gym, and I seen that you can go up the steps and be right there at the front door. Everybody was coming in. You seen Dougie Fresh, Red Alert, they was on the mic. People started coming in and everything, it was cool. And then when LL Cool J and Mike Tyson showed up, that must have went pandemonium.
The crowd would begin to push towards the entrance, soon overwhelming the security and gaining entrance to the gym. Unfortunately, as the crowd surged into the lobby and down a short staircase into the gym, at the bottom there were 4 inward opening doors that were closed. This created a deadly bottleneck where the pressure of the crowd still pushing towards the doors would soon begin to cause breathing problems to the people stuck at the bottom. And apparently, Diddy himself would actually manage to open one of these doors and would begin to pull incapacitated people onto the gym floor. Diddy would later apparently describe some of these events to a reporter, explaining that he had to overcome his initial revulsion motion towards a passed out man with vomit in his mouth. Diddy would apparently wipe the vomit away and begin to administer CPR, saying how he felt the person's death going inside of him. In the end, this tragic event would result in 9 people losing their lives and 29 people getting injured.
O kurwa.
A few times I thought I was gonna pass out because it was hot on that staircase. You know what I'm saying? And when they closed the doors, I knew something was going down.
O tym w ogóle pierwsze słyszę.
College was a deep experience for me. I was there, I was on the floor, I watched people take their last breath, regurgitate, and die.
Okay, you said a female? Yes, a female.
Wiecie, to się nie wydaje, że to jest aż tak niebezpieczne, ale jak jest tak przeludniona sala, że jest tyle ludzi, że się kurwa ściskają i oddychać nie mogą, w efekcie czego ginie 9 osób, no to jest popierdolone. A później wiesz, ktoś traci przytomność, leży na podłodze, ludzie go kurwa deptają. I wiecie, no jedna osoba przykładowo 80 kilo nie wydaje się jakoś sporo, ale kurwa jak staranujecie, powiedzmy, dziesiątki osób przez ciebie przejdą, to jest pojebane.
We were there at the doorway pulling people in, trying to get them. It was bananas. I pulled friends through the door. You know, first time in my life, I gave mouth-to-mouth resuscitation to people. That was just bananas to me.
When we got down to the bottom, we just pulled them out. And that's when I think Tuffy came around. But I just walked off for a minute and then I came back. It was just all them people, you know what I'm saying?
To była sala 2700 capacity, tak? A było ponad 5000 ludzi.
See, the problem is that there's people inside the gymnasium that does not have no pulse and is not breathing.
Więc jak jedna osoba pchnie 10 kilo, tak kilkanaście, to masz dostatecznie, aby uniemożliwić oddychanie do zera. No tak, no tak. Banda ludzi się przepycha jeden drugiego, przepycha i de facto tworzy się wahadło, no.
Became front page news all over the country. And in the coming days and weeks, the New York newspapers would make several pages-long special reports on the events that led up to this tragedy, with the headline of one of these reports asking, where's the money?
Ale patrzcie też, jaka jest różnica tego, jak się informacje w starych mediach roznosiły, a jak jest teraz, nie? Teraz jest o wiele łatwiejszy dostęp do informacji. No wątpię, żeby ludzie kiedykolwiek Travisowi zapomnieli Astrowolda i cały syf organizacyjny z tym związany. Gdzie tam ogólnie chyba śmiertelnych ofiar było mniej. Thousands were injured. 10 people ranging in age from 9 to 27 were killed. A kurwa, przebiło jedno, sorry.
Journalists weren't able to find the donation for the alleged AIDS non-profit that was supposed to be receiving part of the event's proceeds. Also, Diddy from the beginning would be under major scrutiny. As journalists begun digging into matters
no to kurwa, ja pierwsze słyszę. No też lata od tego minęły, no ale...
detail, the oversized crowds and the missing charity money.
Travis jeszcze nie polepszył sytuacji swoim story po sytuacji. To jest jedna rzecz, że no kiedyś, no nawet jakby Diddy chciał się do tego odnieść, no to też nie było Instagramów, nie było niczego, więc nawet jeżeli byłby na tyle głupi, żeby zrobić coś podobnego, to nawet nie było zbytnio medium do tego, nie? Więc bardziej mi chodzi o to, że to jest... Teraz mamy tak łatwy dostęp do informacji, tak szybko można coś przekazać swojej publice i tak dalej, że mamy właśnie teraz takie kwiatki, a kurwa totalnie się zapomniało o tym, że Puffy zrobił event, w którym kurwa przekręciło się 9 osób, nie?
People from New York's rap promoter scene who were familiar with Diddy's past events, with one promoter describing the situation as dangerous and unruly. This will be the first time that many New Yorkers will become familiar with Diddy's face, as he and Heavy D would do their own damage control, attempting to explain how things could have gone so terribly wrong. Diddy would seemingly attempt to push the blame on the police, who had been apparently incredibly slow to respond to the events of that evening, and some had even refused to enter the gym after there were already reports of people passed out, as the gym, according to the police, was actually the city college's responsibility. One article would even point out how this tragedy had derailed Diddy's rocket-like rise to the top of the rap industry, whilst describing Diddy as a classic overachiever, not shy about stepping on other people's toes to get what he wants. In the aftermath, then New York City Mayor David Dinkins' administration would release a comprehensive 67-page report titled A Failure of Responsibility, which would actually place blame on all of the parties involved in the tragedy, including Diddy, who the report would criticize directly for delegating all of the work to his inexperienced assistants, employing an inadequate number of security personnel personnel, failing to inform the crowd that only those with advance tickets would actually be permitted onto the premises, and creating inappropriate marketing by mentioning a charity cause without actually making specific arrangements to donate towards such a cause. As Gene Deal would confirm to DJ Vlad, it was this incident that allegedly led to Diddy getting fired from Uptown Records, which would allegedly cause him to actually be placed on suicide watch.
And because of that incident, Puffy got fired from Uptown.
Yes, he did. We put him on suicide watch.
Oh, he wanted to kill himself.
Yeah.
I mean, I can imagine.
On, poprawcie mnie, jeśli się mylę, ale teraz jak go zamknęli, to też jest, albo może dalej jest, ale na pewno był, znaczy na pewno. Tak mi się wydaje, że był też na Suicide Watch, nie?
You feel partially responsible for 9 people dying, including a pregnant woman, which is technically 10 if you think about it.
Yeah. I think that he was on suicide watch because he thought he lost everything.
Technically 10 if you think about it, well...
However, as soon as Diddy had been placed under the scrutiny for what happened, he would also seemingly be let off the hook. And already, just a few years later, the media would begin putting out what seemed like puff pieces, where Diddy was presented as somebody who had vindicated himself of all wrongdoing, and his career behind the scenes of the rap industry would actually continue to prosper.
A year has passed since the CCNY tragedy, but people have not forgotten what happened, including the event's promoter, 22-year-old Sean Puffy Combs. He was cited in the New York City Deputy Mayor's report for failing to adequately alert student organizers to the need for strong security and crowd control.
Dzięki Bamek za 9 miechów. Benefit System Synectic Neuka, którą z tych firm najlepiej znasz? Nie znam chyba ani jednej.
Since then, Combs has maintained a low profile in the press, which he feels has wrongly portrayed him.
I'm famous for like the kid in their minds who threw the tragic City College, and that's kind of hard for me sometimes to live with. In the first couple of days when it happened, there was nobody to really answer for what was going on, you know what I'm saying? So
pojebane, że 22-latek robił w ogóle taki event na taką skalę.
And everybody was trying to figure out why this happened.
Like people are tired, especially amongst black people. They're tired of seeing us kill each other. Us go through that just the situations where lack of love for our race and for ourselves.
Rapper Heavy D, who's managed by Combs and co-hosted the ill-fated event, says that Combs is a good kid who deserves all the success he's achieved in '92 despite its dismal beginning. Recently, Combs was promoted to Vice President of Artist Development at Uptown Records, started his own record label, and is the creator and executive producer behind some of R&B's top acts.
But in 1999, the families of some of the victims would at least get some vindication, as the promoters of the event were actually found negligent and 50% responsible for the tragedy that unfolded, while the City College were found to be responsible for the other half, and both parties were ordered to pay for the damages to the families of the victims. However, for Diddy, who was already a millionaire at this point, paying a few $100,000 hardly seemed like a real punishment for the loss of 9 lives, and meanwhile, he would continue causing havoc in the industry. By autumn 1992, Diddy was riding high after signing his latest talent, the notorious B.I.G., aka Biggie Smalls, whose debut album Ready to Die was nearing completion, but there was a problem. Uptown's distributor MCA Records deemed the album's lyrics to be too explicit and refused to release it. Frustrated and
a to też pojebane czasy były, że zawsze był problem z wydawaniem kawałków, bo były zbyt wulgarne na przykład.
And Biggie voiced their disappointment, which according to the Uptown...
Popatrzcie się, jak wygląda kurwa branża dzisiaj.
And Records founder Andre Harrell was the...
Teraz to są podejrzenia, że jest na odwrót, że teraz to wytwórnie narzucają na artystach, żeby byli bardziej explicit, żeby się bardziej przebijali.
Real issue that ultimately led to Diddy leaving Uptown Records in late 1992, as Harrell didn't want to be the one to tell the new generation what was acceptable and what was not.
And the final straw for me was when MCA wanted me to not put out the Biggie Smalls album because...
Pamiętam, że Hollywood Undead zawsze miało problemy z wydawaniem albumów, bo były too explicit.
The subject matter, and they wanted me to tell him
tak off topic, ale przypomniało mi się.
And it wasn't up to me, I felt, to tell a generation what they could and could not do artistically.
Determined to keep pushing forward, however, Diddy channeled his ambition into launching his own label.
Overpoł się najebał, no jak cały czas w CS-a gra, to się nie dziwię, nie?
The now iconic...
Nie wiem sobie, czy teraz gra aktywnie w CS-a, ale...
Entertainment in early 1993. Wasting no time, he built up an impressive lineup of artists, and by September 1994, Bad Boy had released Ready to Die.
A nie, czekaj, kurwa, Overpoł, to jest ten od Lola. Ja go pojebałem z tym, Paulim od Izaka, my bad.
resonated deeply with hip-hop fans, solidifying itself as a rap classic and receiving perfect reviews from some of the industry's most respected outlets. This marked the beginning of a meteoric rise for Bad Boy, which quickly became one of the biggest labels in hip-hop throughout the 90s, with a roster that included Craig Mack, Biggie Smalls, Lil' Kim, and Lox. Bad Boy amassed a catalogue of hit singles and critically acclaimed albums that would dominate the charts, and Diddy's influence extended well beyond music, establishing him as a celebrity and prominent figure in the New York social scene. But unfortunately, in the early 90s, a fierce rivalry also erupted between Death Row Records and Bad Boy Records, due to their association with two of hip-hop's biggest stars at the time, Tupac Shakur on Death Row and Biggie on Bad Boy. The rivalry between Death Row and Bad Boy escalated...
Kurwa, Death Row, Bad Boy, jak był Diddy, jak był Suge Knight, kurwa, Tupac.
Significantly following the tragic shooting of Jake Robles, aka Big Jake, in 1995.
I'm just gonna kick a little something. Everybody wanna know why people bang, why people kill, why people do this, sell dope, and you can't just look at the individuals, because you know you have to look at the environment that they're set in that creates these conditions for them to have to live and do the things that they do, and so we just kicking it like that. You know, we ain't out here essing on our chest, but you know, it's like everybody out here want to be a tough guy, killer, a gangster, you understand, but
Suge do końca nie wyjdzie, nie? To kurwa chuj wie jak to finalnie, czy go wypuszczą, czy nie, no ale raczej Suge już chyba GGWP, tak mi się wydaje. No on chyba dostał dożywocie, nie? Suge Knight sentence. A 28 lat dostał, no ale mi się wydaje, że na ten 28 to on chyba już realnie nie dożyje. Teraz ma 60, no.
Friends, but ultimately after this, Diddy and Death Row co-founder Marion Suge Knight found themselves on opposite sides after Big Jake, Knight's friend and security guard, was killed outside an Atlanta nightclub following a confrontation with the Bad Boy entourage. The incident unfolded...
Jak sądzicie? Jest odpowiedzialny za tego? Za Eazy'ego? Czy nie? Suge Knight.
At the Platinum City Club, where both camps were celebrating musician Jermaine Dupri's birthday. Tensions apparently flared during that night, and later on, an argument erupted, turning the situation chaotic and ultimately leading to Big Jake being shot, with the assailant...
No a też mi się wydaje, że to jest trochę grubym chujem szyte, że chciał sobie trochę przypisać zasługi. Chciał na takiego tough guy wyjść u tego Jimmy'ego Fallona, a pewnie prawda była inna.
This deepened the rift between the two record labels and intensified...
Easy chyba zmarł na HIV. No dobra, no ale stary kurwa był wywiad, w którym on poszedł i powiedział, że no słuchaj, jest teraz nowy sposób na pozbywanie się ancymonów. Wstrzykujesz im krew z HIV. Easy E style.
The atmosphere of hostility that would plague the hip-hop community in years to come. Big Jake would pass away weeks later at an Atlanta hospital, and Diddy would deny involvement in the shooting, which Suge Knight reportedly held him responsible for. Diddy's bodyguard, Anthony Wolf Jones, would be a person of interest in the case, with multiple witnesses, including an off-duty police officer, alleging to have seen him fire the shot.
To nie to samo, nie. Jedno to jest wirus, drugie to jest choroba, z tego co wiem.
Wolf himself would actually...
HIV się przeradza w AIDS. AIDS jest gorsze.
He'd be killed in 2003 following an altercation with BMF founder Big Meech. According to Trey D, a rapper from Snoop Dogg's G-Funk group, the Eastsiders, the murder of Robles was the last straw in the Death Row Bad Boy beef.
Well, who got killed in Death Row? I mean, obviously Tupac.
Well, Jake Robles got killed.
Jake Robles?
Yeah.
Who was that?
The one that got killed at the party in Atlanta.
Oh, Suge's friend?
Yeah.
Aha.
Yeah.
Were you around during that time?
Jake was a good dude, yeah. Jake was a good dude.
So was that like Suge's like best friend, or?
He was a good friend of him. He was a very good friend. You see them together often, and I think Suge trusted him a lot.
Okay. In the Jake Robles incident, they actually showed, you know, him getting killed, and then, you know, Suge being there, and I guess Puffy was there at the club also, and Suge started blaming Puffy for the shooting. Was Jake getting killed? Was that like the straw that broke the camel's back in a way?
Suge zlecił zabójstwo Biggiego, także no stare, no jest nagranie jak Suge rozjeżdża dwie osoby, kurwa, w 2015 samochodem. Także ogólnie no Suge od zawsze był jebnięty.
Suge and that...
Seemed to be. It seemed to be.
Za to chyba wyrok finalnie dostał, nie? Między innymi. Ale za to go chyba pojmali wtedy.
The party that he attended,
jakoś jak wychodził ten film o NWA. O ile dobrze kojarzę.
In the process, it was a flare up between the two camps. and he wound up dead.
But as the 90s went on, Diddy would continue raising hell in the recording industry, and it would seem
Kurwa, Forbans House'a.
that no executives were off limits. 3 years later, on April the 16th, 1998, Diddy attacked music executive Steve Stout after Stout mistakenly sent MTV a controversial version of legendary New York rapper and Queens native Nas's Hate Me Now music video, which featured Diddy and depicted him as Jesus Christ being crucified. According to former Compton police officer who later became Death Row Records head of security, Reggie Wright Jr., Diddy consulted with his preacher that if he put out a video of him on the cross, the video would be his downfall.
But the main thing that y'all know Steve Stout's for is he's the gentleman that Puffy got mad about the video when he was put on the cross, and how, you know, you go and film something, then I think he said he wanted to talk to his reverend or his preacher or his pastor or something like that, and he told him that won't be a good look for him, and he kind of predicted that you're gonna have a downfall.
Gaweł, dzięki bardzo za rajda, witam. Before ktoś zapytał, oglądamy dokument o Diddy'm od Trapper Rossa. Czekałem w chuj na ten film, dlatego chciałem go oglądać na streamie. Witam. Whistling Diesel wczoraj film wypuścił, obejrzymy, zobaczymy jak ogólnie dzisiaj bomba pierdolnie ze streamem, bo jeszcze z chłopakami chciałem Faceita jebnąć.
Being on that cross, maybe it's coming true in 2024.
Furious that this part of the video had not been edited out, Diddy confronted Stout in his New York office, where he and 2 associates assaulted him with a phone. Diddy would state that he handled the situation poorly and later publicly apologized, with Stout dropping the charges. But it was rumored that Diddy actually paid $500,000 to Stout.
Kim jest Diddy? W skrócie pojebem.
To attend a one-day anger management class. The cycle of Diddy being associated with chaos in the streets and in the boardroom was just beginning, however, as lives had already been lost in connection with Diddy's activities. From here, more profile incidents of Diddy's career so far, leaving numerous lives ruined, both strangers and the people that were supposedly closest to him. On the 27th of December 1999, Diddy and his girlfriend at the time, global pop star Jennifer Lopez, and his bad boy artist Jamal Shine Barrow were at a club in New York when a confrontation escalated after Diddy apparently knocked a drink out of the hands of a local gangster named Matthew Scar Allen. This sparked an argument during which Allen actually threatened Shine, and somebody apparently threw money in Diddy's face. Chaos would ensue, and all 3 men reportedly drew guns, and someone would allegedly fire 3 shots in the packed club, injuring 3 people. Diddy was arrested with 2 9mm guns in his car and ended up facing 4 weapons charges, along with accusations of bribing his driver to...
Jak on w ogóle tyle lat był na wolności, dla mnie to jest niepojęte. Ja czaję, że wpływowy gość w kurwę siada, ale dalej.
Take the blame for the guns. Although a witness claimed to have seen both men firing their weapons, Diddy himself was actually acquitted of all the charges in 2001. This was because differing stories emerged on his role in the shooting, with him stating that he did not own nor possess a gun on the said night. His girlfriend Jennifer Lopez would make headlines for her supposed night in hell, while Shine was the one who truly suffered, being convicted on 5 out of 8 counts and sentenced to a brutal 10 years in prison. Now, before we dive into what happened to Shine after his conviction, let's take a step back and get to know this man. Shine, a name that used to echo through the halls of hip-hop, once stood alongside
Pojebane, że są tak długie wyroki, a oni już drugie tyle są na wolności, nie?
As the next big thing on Bad Boy Records. But his story took a turn that very few could have predicted. His gritty style and undeniable talent, along with comparisons to the legendary Biggie Smalls, all pointed to a bright future. And yet, one night at a club in New York would change everything, ultimately landing him in prison for 10 years, followed by a swift deportation. Now, if you want a much deeper refresher on the events that brought Shine to that moment, you can go and check out my full video that I did on this a few years back. But the short of it is that Shine ultimately ended up taking the fall for the shooting. Diddy got off scot-free, and Shine served 10 years in prison, being released in 2009, with his life taking a dramatic turn. Due to his criminal conviction, he would be deported to Belize, where he had spent his early childhood. This forced relocation meant that Shine was distanced from the career and community that he had fought to build in the US.
Not being in the United States of America has crippled
Belize?
My career. Crippled my career.
You thought you could work around it?
I thought I could work around it, Jules, but it crippled my career. And not being able to go to Britain as an alternative, or to Canada as alternative, just, you know, my foot was crippled and they crippled my hand. So they've totally, you know, destabilized me and just put me out of the game.
But fortunately, Shine would adapt, shifting his focus away from music to a path of self-discovery and spiritual growth. He would soon convert to Orthodox Judaism, adopting the Hebrew name Moses Levi. In multiple...
Mały off-top, ale zastanawiam się, o chuj chodzi z USA i ludźmi ze Stanów, że tam tyle przestępczości i tego, że nawet niektórzy z młodzieży szkolnej mogą odpierdolić coś grubego typu strzelanina w szkole. Znaczy, no tutaj zadajesz ciężkie pytania i trochę o grubsze tematy pytasz, no ale no, ogólnie duży problem to jest ogólna dostępność broni w Stanach. Na pewno to nie pomaga, jeżeli pytasz o strzelaniny w szkołach i tak dalej. I znaczy, Teraz w ogóle oni są w takiej piździe, bo tak naprawdę jak chcesz rozwiązać taki problem? Bo są zwolennicy, są przeciwnicy, jakby to jest temat rzeka, można o tym pierdolić godzinami, ale już faktem jest, że no kurwa w Stanach na dzień dzisiejszy jesteś w stanie ogarnąć broń tego. Jest, znaczy wiadomo, że tam masz jakieś testy, jakby musisz mieć na to papiery, jest to jakoś rejestrowane i tak dalej, ale no też z racji, że jest to łatwiej dostępne niż na przykład, nie wiem, przykładowo u nas w Polsce, no to naturalnie też będzie o wiele więcej incydentów, ale w tym momencie, no co, no kurwa, jeżeli stwierdziliby, okej, robimy ogólny zakaz, że zwykły cywil nie może już teraz się bronić, kurwa, nie może używać broni palnych, jakby one już pływają po, kurwa, milionie osiedli, nie? No jak się pozbyć w tym momencie tego problemu? To jest jedna rzecz. Druga rzecz jest taka, dlaczego tam jest tyle przestępczości, no stary, jest to o wiele większy, na pewno, kurwa, o wiele więcej jest tam ludzi, więc no też naturalnie o wiele więcej, o wiele większej ilości case'ów takich słyszysz, no.
Interviews, he shared that his time in prison had led him to reevaluate his choices and lifestyle, ultimately pushing him to embrace religion and a more disciplined life. Upon returning to Belize, Shine quickly became involved in local politics and community service. He initially worked under his father, Dean Barrow, the Prime Minister of Belize at the time, and later, Shine decided to step into the political arena himself, a move that would eventually see him elected to the Belize House of Representatives.
Wiesz, też nie pomaga fakt, że no niektóre stany zezwalają ci na... czy to jest dobre, czy to jest złe, nie mi oceniać. Samoobronę bronią palną, nie? No przecież był case, kurwa, z DaBabym, który w Walmarcie postrzelił typa, kurwa, i go zabił, bo podobno, no, według oficjalnych podań groził tam jemu i jego rodzinie. I finalnie, no, jakby w ogóle nawet nie siedział za długo za to. Od razu go wypuścili, bo według, nie wiem, czy to była Floryda, czy jaki to był stan, ale mógł się obronić, obronił się, udowodnił w sądzie, że było to uzasadnione i tyle, nie?
20. Shine expressed his desire to uplift the youth in Belize, sharing that he wanted to use his
Tak,
story
wyobraź sobie, jedziesz do Żabki po bułki, a tam sąsiad wychodzi z jakimś blokiem, albo Smithem Wesson, no.
cautionary tale to steer others away from violence and incarceration. Following
Dla mnie to jest niepojęte, no ale no też trochę inne realia mamy w Polsce, więc...
Shine would publicly address the events that led to his imprisonment and the role that Diddy played in the aftermath, stating that he'd reconciled with Diddy, even surprising fans in London with a reunion, stating this is real love. He would initially admit to there being tension between himself and Diddy.
I mean, he doesn't really matter to me, what happened, and for what this was, I felt, it captured everything that I wanted to capture at the time.
You know, from the media standpoint, your trial was the Puffy trial. Do you feel that worked against you, all the fact that 99% of the focus was on him?
Obviously, he was the uber star, and I was just up and coming, so, yeah, it's gonna be a show. But he used that to just, just threw me off, it was terrible, man.
You're just consumed with the idea that justice wasn't served here and that somebody turned his back on you.
It's not a matter.
Nie wiem, co próbujesz Ishimu Rakoto przekazać przez to, ale to nie wiem, czy to jest jakby geneza ich problemu. Mi się wydaje, że nie do końca. Ale no to fakt, jeżeli chodzi o to, jak wyglądają Stany naprawdę, to też polecam wam, oglądnijcie sobie jakiegoś vloga, jak na przykład Tivo czy Ziemniak. To mi się przypomina, no bo tam montowałem te filmy, więc jestem zaznajomiony z treścią. Ale no przecież Ziemniak, jak pierwsze co mi mówił, kurwa, jak poleciał bo oni najpierw byli w Kalifornii, później byli w Nowym Jorku, z tego co pamiętam. Tam chyba na E3 lecieli, czy tam na jakieś inne eventy. I no chłop mówi, że wiesz, no dużo się gada o tych Stanach, oni tam też byli kilkukrotnie, a kurwa przyjeżdżasz na miejsce, wszędzie bezdomni, jebiesz czynami, śmieci leżą na ulicy, no nie wygląda to tak kolorowo, nie?
Turning your back on me. Like, how do you
strach wejść do niektórych regionów.
To testify against your comrade. If I'm telling
tak, crackheadzi na ulicy.
That she's lying, and you saying, hey, well, she helping me.
Że takie San Francisco to jest kurwa, to jest dzicz.
But I'm facing 25 years, and you looking at probation. Yeah, those are the things that you understand are unacceptable. You don't have to hold my hand. You don't have to do nothing, but don't try to hurt me. Most damaging witness of any witness. She was worse than the prosecution's witness, which destroyed me because the prosecution is saying I'm this belligerent, reckless, okay, corralled fella, and then my co-defendant is saying the same thing. That was it. That was it.
With Diddy later denying claims that his witness was detrimental to Shine's defense.
Anybody to say anything that would damage or hurt Shine's case, I just wouldn't do that. That would not be my intent whatsoever. And you know, that's all I'm really going to say about the matter, not to get into any negative back and forth, because y'all know me over the years on MTV News being involved in certain things. Right now my life is
Kurwa,
positive.
mogę się przypierdolić do tego materiału, że można by było te wątki trochę zwęźlej przedstawić. W sensie, ja rozumiem, że to ma być rzetelny materiał, ale mam wrażenie, że chyba większość osób interesują te ostatnie sprawy związane z Diddy.
And I'm gonna keep it like that, not forgetting about Sean. My prayers go out to him, any support that is needed. You know, we here at Bad Boy, we still here for him. And you know, we know he's on Def Jam, and we wish him the best of luck. It was an unfortunate incident, nothing that the man didn't, meant to do. He was acting in self-defense. He didn't deserve 10 years, and that's my statement.
Shine was feeling abandoned by his former mentor and friend, though his stance would eventually soften, with him expressing that he had forgiven Diddy, understanding that they both had made mistakes and that holding on to bitterness would not serve him or his mission. In a later interview on Drink Champs on Revolt in 2022, Shine reflected on his relationship with Diddy, explaining that he did not blame him now as much as he did back then, actually blaming Diddy's lawyers instead. Shine clarified that while he once harbored resentment towards Diddy, he ultimately chose to move past it, acknowledging that forgiveness was part of his personal growth.
That incident. You know what happened with Diddy, with Brother Love? I don't really blame that
tego ksywy, kurwa, Brother Love.
now, as much as I did then, because I did go through a stage of bitterness.
You're human.
But in retrospect, you know, I blame it more on the lawyers that were advising him
To separate the case.
than him. Because his lawyers...
Oni to nagrywają na tych majkach tutaj? Przecież ten mic nawet nie jest w jego stronę skierowany.
Excuse me, to secure a not guilty verdict by any means. He's a corporation, $100 million corporation. And
American Dream to był w latach 60. i 70., potem to był Idy na resorach. Też mi się wydaje, że to nawet nie tyle, co było w 60. i 70. American Dream, co bardziej, kurwa, kwestia tego, że po prostu dużo informacji już się zatarło z czasem. To jest stare, no nie wiem, no wcześniej miałeś epidemię kraku na przykład, nie? To nie wyglądało, to mi się wydaje, lepiej, tylko po prostu mniej jest udokumentowanych jakichś tam cięższych przypadków. No też jakby nie było na rękę nigdy podawać tego, że no jest chujowo jednak u nas, nie? Więc my w Polsce tak nie słyszeliśmy zbytnio o tym, co tam się odpierdala.
This is how many years ago? This is 20-some years ago.
20-something years.
So Puff is still young, relatively.
What is it, 1999?
1999,
Okay.
2000.
Damn.
So he's much younger then, and you know it's a lot of pressure. You know he's about to lose everything. I'm about to lose everything. I'm from that though. Right? You know, Diddy is a musician. You know he's a great musician, great executive. You know, great entertainer, but he wasn't from that. So his response shouldn't be expected to
Kurwa, czy można Diddy'ego nazwać muzykiem? Zajmował się muzyką, ale właśnie bardziej executive, nie kurwa, muzyk.
And then when your lawyer...
Nawijać czasem nawijał, no ale kurwa mam wrażenie, że to jakby do jego główny nurt karierowy, no to nie było bycie raperem przykładowo.
And maybe other people are misleading you and misguiding you. I think that's how everything, you know, fell apart.
Taką hierarchię mamy barmaczek? No nie wiem.
Shine's life post-release has been marked by an active pursuit of change, not just for himself, but for his community. Through his involvement in Belizean politics, he aims to combat issues like poverty and lack of educational resources, believing that empowering the youth will prevent others from going down the same path that he did.
I want you to be a messenger. I want you to lift these kids up. I want you to save these kids' lives. I don't want anybody else in Brooklyn or anywhere else in New York or Los Angeles, anywhere around the world,
I to nie jest jego wina.
or United States to go through what we went through. We got to stop this cycle. So black love is important. We got to stop killing each other. It can't just be when, you know, they're kneeling on George Floyd's neck. You know, we get up in arms, but then when we blowing each other's brains out, nobody says anything. You know, so black.
Cassie, dzięki za trójkę. Nie dzisiaj.
3 złote. Siema Enigma, dawaj jakąś piosenki rób.
Nie dzisiaj, ale dzięki za trójkę.
Love is important.
His story has resonated with fans and followers, many of whom see him as a symbol of redemption and resilience. In a 2022 interview with Rolling Stone, Shine summed up his journey, saying, "I've been training for this my entire life because I grew up with one of the greatest CEOs ever in Diddy." However, in a recent statement in September 2024, after the barrage of Diddy's sexual misconduct allegations, Shine would voice that his former mentor actually destroyed his life, particularly regarding that 1999 New York
Jak się zamieszał w politykę, to co innego miał powiedzieć.
club shooting incident.
Let us not lose sight of what the cold hard facts are. This was not someone who I vacationed with and who he and I enjoyed this great intimate relationship of brotherhood. This is someone who destroyed my life.
Czasem, ale dzisiaj nie chcę żadnych piosenek oceniać, bo chcę ten materiał przerobić, wiesz?
Close relationship with
Bo i tak już stwierdziłem, że go oglądam na streamie. Zgodzę się, że okej, ten fragment trochę przybula, no fakt. Ale mi się wydaje, że kontekst też całej sytuacji jest ważny w takim materiale.
He was swept up in a night that ultimately led to his conviction and nearly a decade in prison while Diddy was acquitted. He alleged that Diddy called witnesses in against him, contributing to his imprisonment. And despite these feelings, Shine, now a leader in Belizean politics, stated that he had indeed forgiven Diddy because he recognized Diddy's potential to contribute to Belize through educational and developmental investments. I mean, yeah, maybe he could start a freak-off fund. In November the 5th, 2024, in an interview with Developmental Investment...
Ja mówię, kiedyś Traplor Ross, on się nie pierdolił, jak on nagrywał filmy, on ciągle kurwa wyzywał tam raperów w filmach i co jakiś czas on zarzuca takim kurwa czerstwym żartem.
I mean, yeah, maybe he could start a freak-off fund. In November 5th, 2024, in an interview with Channel 5 Belize, Shine's true feelings would once again come out about his disappointment, stating that he was the fall guy in the 1999 nightclub shooting in New York, and in a statement, he would maintain his innocence in that shooting all these decades later, actually thanking Diddy for all he'd done for the people of Belize and saying that he hoped justice would be served for both Diddy and the alleged victims. Shine's story says a lot about the misguided loyalty that those close to Diddy gave to him, but if you read between the lines of Shine's graceful statements, you begin to see that duplicitous side of Diddy shining through. This is a man who throws stones and hides his hand, and will happily let those closest and most loyal to him have their lives destroyed to preserve Diddy's image and freedom. And with Diddy getting off scot-free in this case, zero lessons were learned, and as we get into the 2000s, we'll see Diddy in and out of court more than ever, as this untouchable Teflon Titan only got more bold and belligerent in his selfish and destructive behavior.
O! Lata 2000, w końcu zmierzamy do konkretów.
In 2001, Diddy was sued by his former driver, Wardell Fenderson, for $3 million. Fenderson alleged that Diddy had offered him $50,000 to lie to the police about a gun that was found in Diddy's car following that 1999 nightclub shooting incident that involved Diddy, his then girlfriend Jennifer Lopez, and the rapper Shine. Fenderson claimed that after the shooting, Diddy actually pressured him to falsely testify about the presence of a gun in the vehicle. And as a result, Fenderson stated that he suffered emotional distress and physical injuries from the incident. The lawsuit was settled out of court for an undisclosed amount, and this represented something of a loose end for Diddy following that Shine case. But once again, Diddy was able to pull out his checkbook and make the problem go away. And sadly, Diddy's dishonorable habits would only continue throughout the decade. On March 26, 2001, Michigan TV host Roger Mills filed a lawsuit against Diddy, accusing him of an assault that allegedly took place following a 1999 interview. Mills claimed that during an interview with WCHB TV in Detroit, he questioned Diddy about his rumored connection to the murder of the Notorious B.I.G., a topic that apparently sparked anger. The Notorious B.I.G.
To też jest pojebana teza, że B.I.G. Diddy'Ego podłożył.
Drive-by shooting in Los Angeles in 1997.
Jest na to bardzo duża szansa, że tak
months
było.
After a similar incident that took the life of Tupac Shakur. According to Mills, Diddy's representative requested the tape of the interview, but when Mills refused to hand it over, Diddy's entourage allegedly attacked the host and forcibly took the tape. Diddy's team vehemently denied the claims, with the spokeswoman accusing Mills of attempting to extort the rapper. In a 2004 civil trial, a jury ultimately sided with Diddy, ruling in his favor and dismissing the allegations. In this case, it wasn't a payment that helped him avoid liability, but likely his access to a high-ticket legal team was still enabling Diddy to convert his questionable riches into bulletproof legal defenses that would allow him to avoid responsibility for anything that went down. But ironically for Diddy, it would seem that he had endless money to fight charges, but he would seemingly get stingy when it came to supporting his own family. In 2001, model Kim Porter sued Diddy for additional child support following a prolonged dispute regarding their then 3-year-old son, Christian Combs. Now this case was actually settled, with Diddy agreeing to pay Porter...
Ja dobrze pamiętam, że w którymś momencie 50 zabrał syna Diddy'ego na zakupy, czy kurwa ogólnie tak, żeby dzień z nim spędzić? Było coś takiego, nie?
Substantial 5-figure monthly sum covering Christian's
Czy Diddy syna 50 Centa, bo 50 Cent też z jednym swoim synem ma jakieś kurwa zatargi.
And medical expenses until he turned 21. Diddy, who had actually fathered 6 children by 4 different women, co-parented 4 of these children with Porter, including Christian and twin daughters Delilah and Jessie. And in addition to that, he would actually adopt Porter's son Quincy from a previous relationship with Albie Shaw. Diddy's other children include Justin, whose mother is Misa Hilton, and Chance, born to Sarah Chapman. His youngest daughter Love was born in 2022 to Dana Tran. Despite their on and off relationship, Diddy and
Kurwa,
Kim
imiona w
Porter
Stanach też są pojebane. Masz kurwa stare córkę i nazywasz ją Miłość.
maintained a co-parenting relationship until
Amendo,
Porter's
dzięki za
tragic
słowa,
and sudden death in 2019 from pneumonia. Now, rumors have swirled for years questioning the circumstances of Kim Porter's death, amid rumors that she was planning to release a tell-all book exposing Diddy. And while we may never know whether or not there was more dark activities going on behind the scenes of Kim and Diddy's relationship, it would seem that, as always, just before Diddy's due to be exposed to a downfall, things would always seem to just miraculously work out in his favor. And as the decade progressed, Diddy would continue to catch cases and finesse his way out of tight spots at the very last minute. In May 2002, North Carolina resident Cedric Bobby Lemon sued Diddy, alleging that while working as a limousine driver, he wore an identification badge that permitted him to stand backstage during a concert by Mary J. Blige in June 1995. Now, Diddy was Blige's manager at the time, and according to the lawsuit, as Blige's set ended, 2 bodyguards attempted to clear the backstage area in order to escort Blige out of the venue. These 2 would then allegedly punch Lemon in the head, kick him in the back, and break his right ankle. The lawsuit stated that Combs was negligent because he failed to properly train these bodyguards. Initially, in 2002, a judge had entered a default judgment against Diddy for $2.45 million because he failed to answer the allegations in Lemon's lawsuit. But these damages were later reduced to $450,000, and in 2004, the $450K lawsuit judgment was actually vacated after the North Carolina Court of Appeals ruled that Lemon's case didn't meet the standards of a default judgment. Diddy and Lemon would then settle out of court in 2006 for an undisclosed
czyli nie wiadomo ile dostał finalnie, okej.
Now, it's important to note that Lemon had earlier brought the first action in July 1996 against several defendants, including the 2 bodyguards and their
Czyli pewnie z 2 baniek się zrobiło 100 000 i utkę dziurę, no?
Steve Lucas Management. That action resulted in judgment against Steve Lucas Management, but Lemon had also brought a second action in May 1999 against Mary J. Blige, which had then been settled out of court. Since the case was settled out of court, we might never know exactly what happened definitively, but by this point, it's not hard to imagine Diddy making use of his hired goons to inflict serious bodily harm on somebody who doesn't do exactly what he wants. And it would appear that Diddy was still just as ruthless in the boardroom as he was in backstage confrontations. In 2003, former Bad Boy Entertainment executive Kirk Burrows filed a $25 million lawsuit against Diddy and attorney Kenneth Meiselas, with Bad Boy Entertainment also named as defendant for using intimidation tactics back in 1996. Burrows claimed that Diddy and Meiselas had allegedly threatened him with a baseball bat, forcing him to sign over his rights to company stock, making him the victim of an extortion and racketeering scheme carried out by Diddy. Burrows, who had been fired from Bad Boy Entertainment in 1997, claimed that in 1993 he was promised a 25% ownership stake in Bad Boy, which he would later be forced to relinquish in 1996 under threats of violence, something that he would actually explain in detail in an interview with the Art of Dialogue channel.
I had 25% of the company. I didn't know why he needed to get that back from me and then give it back to me again. I didn't understand that. That's like a trick, like, okay, here, I gave it to you, now give it back.
Co się finalnie stało z Bad Boy jako label?
Give it right back to you. I didn't want to give it up. So he came into my office one day unexpected, him and Kenny Meiselas, they had it planned out. Kenny had the briefcase with all the stock certificates in it, and Diddy had the
Na przykład Defro, no to po latach przejął Snoop, nie?
Not like, I'm gonna beat out of you with the bat, but he had the bat like, man, we got to do this. This has to happen. I didn't feel I was gonna get beat down in that office, in all honesty. I got people that could jump out of the shadows in a minute. I wasn't threatened by him. What I was messed up.
Bad Boy Records, znana również jako Bad Boy Entertainment, to amerykańska wytwórnia płytowa hip-hopu i R&B, została założona w 1993 przez rapera Shona Combsa. Jest częścią Epic Records oddziału Sony Music. To jest dalej aktywne, tak?
The fact that I started this company with you from day zero, and now the one solid thing that you told me I had, you want to take that back and do a return to me on that at this critical time that we're renegotiating and getting a step up on the contract. When he told me it was about all of that renegotiating and that I should trust, I did, begrudgingly, angry, upset. It wasn't right. I did it. He got the stock back. I went on, tried to get over that, kept doing my job, doing what I had to do, delivering everything. And once again, I was caught up in the job. I forgot all about it. And next thing you know, we had the snafu. I was fired. And he just said, oh, okay, bye. And since he had never given me the stock back, he never said that he would pay me anything or give me anything. He just avoided me all these years.
He would also assert that Combs periodically promised to restore his interest in Bad Boy, but in 2001 made it clear that this promise would not be fulfilled. Additionally, Burroughs would claim that Diddy and Mysalis interfered with his management contracts and blackballed him from the music industry. Burroughs would bring 4 claims under the Federal Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act, or RICO charges, as well as state law claims. However, the court would find that the RICO claims were barred by the statute of limitations and that his allegations failed to meet the legal standards for a RICO violation. After years of litigation, the court would dismiss all of Burroughs' federal claims with prejudice, while his state law claims would be dismissed without prejudice on March 12, 2004. And at this point, things were getting strange, and it seemed that no matter how violent or ruthless Diddy was being perceived as in the public eye, he simply couldn't stop and wouldn't stop. In the next lawsuit, Damian Vasquez alleged that in February 2002, after being told that he could no longer work in the Bad Boy Entertainment main offices, he was given an envelope containing music industry contact sheets by a Bad Boy HR employee where he was advised to send his resume. A month later, following a car accident he was involved in, the envelope was stored in his parents' garage, which he rediscovered in late 2003. Upon reviewing the contents, he realized that the contact sheets included personal information about Diddy. Recognizing this, he reached out to Diddy to arrange their return. But shortly afterward, Vasquez was summoned to meet with Bad Boy HR, where he was questioned about the contact sheets, but not accused of any wrongdoing. Despite working for Bad Boy, he had not been paid his wages and ultimately decided not to return to work after the 2003
do początku, a jasne stary, już oglądamy te 45 minut od nowa, no.
holidays. According to the lawsuit, in early 2004, Vasquez learned that Diddy was missing a Grammy award that he had won the same year, and he would email Diddy with apparent information that he believed might help him find it, but instead, he was allegedly called to a police precinct under the pretense of a job interview. Once there, he was interrogated by NYPD detective Gloria Frazier, who was also mentioned as a defendant in the suit, among others, regarding this missing Grammy. He would apparently be coerced to confess after being threatened with incarceration, and despite being a diabetic, Vasquez's health needs were neglected, leading him to collapse and be hospitalized. After his release from hospital, Vasquez was brought back to the precinct and repeatedly questioned about the Grammy by Frazier and 3 more officers. But after this interrogation failed, he would then be charged with minor crimes that had no connection to the missing award, and he would allege that he was held without being properly informed of his rights and later arraigned on charges of aggravated harassment, petty larceny, and possession of stolen property in concert with Diddy and Bad Boy employees. But all charges were dropped on April 7th, 2005. But this situation was particularly disturbing, as it seemingly hinted towards some kind of collusion between Diddy and New York City law enforcement, with the possibility of the authorities being in
Jestem w
Diddy's pocket.
100% w stanie to uwierzyć, kurwa, gościu z takimi koneksjami, z takim sianem?
Make him an incredibly dangerous enemy, but that didn't stop people continuing to take him to task and putting him in the courtroom to try and make him right his wrongs. In 2005,
szczególnie, że w Nowym Jorku to jest chyba jeden z najbardziej skorumpowanych departamentów policji, nie?
Bridgeport Music Incorporated and Westbound Records Incorporated would file a lawsuit against the estate of Christopher Wallace, or the Notorious B.I.G., as well as Diddy and Bad Boy Records, claiming that the title track of the album Ready to Die contained an unlicensed sample from the Ohio Players song Singing in the Morning. The lawsuit alleged that Bad Boy Records and its affiliates released Ready to Die without securing proper clearance for the Ohio Players track, leading to copyright infringement. The case centered around claims that Ready to Die contained the unauthorized sample, which was substituted into the track after a denied request to sample Jimi Hendrix's Power to Love. Despite knowing that this sample hadn't been cleared, Bad Boy proceeded with the album's release anyway. Bridgeport Music, a Michigan music publishing company which held the copyright to the composition, and Westbound Records, which held the rights to the sound recording, pursued damages for this infringement. And in this case, the jury would actually find Diddy and Bad Boy Records, as well as the other defendants, liable for copyright infringement. And they awarded $733,878 in compensatory damages, which was split between Bridgeport Music and Westbound Records. Bridgeport Music opted for statutory damages and received the maximum award of $150,000 under the Copyright Act. Additionally, Westbound Records was awarded $3.5 million in punitive damages due to the willful nature of this infringement. Perhaps this was one of the few cases where Diddy was unable to buy or intimidate his way out of things. However, as a multi-millionaire and future billionaire, Diddy probably saw something like this as trivial as a speeding ticket. But blood was now in the water, and it would seem that at least large corporations were not afraid of taking Diddy to court and trying to get a piece of his pockets. Also in 2005, Diddy and publishing giant Random House reached a settlement after a dispute over an incomplete memoir. Diddy had reportedly been given a $300,000 advance in 1999 to write the book, but he never delivered the manuscript. And as a result, the planned memoir was scrapped and the legal matter was settled out of court. Perhaps with all of the rumors of various tell-all books on Diddy circulating, he didn't fancy confronting his own past and attempting to put his story out there to the public. But once again, it shows that Diddy is not necessarily someone who can be trusted to stick to their obligations in relationships or business. And this would be a trend that continued to get exposed in lawsuit after lawsuit. In 2007, former consultant James Sabatino, who's currently incarcerated over a string of criminal fraud cases racked up over years, actually sued Diddy for $19 million, claiming that Diddy had failed to pay him in full for a 1994 recording by the Notorious B.I.G. made in Miami. Sabatino alleged that he was owed money for the unreleased material, but but that lawsuit was dismissed in 2009. Now,
Ty dobra, really shit, bo tutaj jest dużo takich pomniejszych pozwów Diddy'Ego. Czy chcemy to przeskipować do 2020 Downfall of Diddy? Żeby też trochę streama do przodu popchnąć? Bo wydaje mi się, że tutaj będzie trochę takie mówienie o paru rzeczach, które aż tak nas bardzo nie interesują. Chłop, co gada wygląda trochę jak Gracjan Rostowski. Trochę ta. Dobra. Idziemy do tego. Ostatnie 30 minut materiału.
In 2022, Diddy was sued by Raven Wales Walden, a former nanny who alleged wrongful termination after disclosing her pregnancy in 2020. Wales Walden, who claimed to be a niece of Diddy's late ex-partner Kim Porter, said that she was fired due to pregnancy discrimination. In response, Diddy denied both the claim that Wales Walden was Porter's niece and that any discrimination took place. A spokesperson for Diddy called the lawsuit a meritless shakedown to extort money from Mr. Combs. The case was dropped by the former nanny in April 2024, and this case itself wasn't really a significant step towards the downfall of Diddy, but it once again shows that this is a man who has zero regard for others, their situations, or his legal obligations to look out for them. Once again, Diddy seems like the kind of guy that if he finds you to no longer be of use to serve him, he will discard you like a piece of trash. But thankfully, soon as the dominoes begun to topple, Diddy would go head to head with a partner in one of his most lucrative business ventures, with the ultimate result being an incredible L that saw Diddy lose everything that he had worked for years. On May 31st, 2023, Diddy filed a lawsuit against Diageo, a major British multinational in the alcoholic beverage industry. With over 200 brands, including Johnny Walker, Guinness, Patron, and Smirnoff, Diageo stands as one of the world's leading giants in the liquor industry. This lawsuit, actually coming from Diddy, would accuse Diageo of racial discrimination, claiming that the company had failed to fulfill commitments within their long-standing partnership. This began in 2007 when Diddy partnered to promote the Ciroc vodka brand, and their partnership would expand in 2014 to include Deleon tequila. Ciroc vodka had made its debut in 2000.
Bo Diddy miał Ciroc, a 50 miał... Kurwa, już nie pamiętam, jak się nazywała ta druga.
Crafted by a French entrepreneur, John Sebastian Robiquet, who brought in a deep-rooted family expertise in wine and spirits to the new venture. Now, unlike most vodkas made from grains or potatoes, Ciroc is actually distilled from fine French grapes, a unique approach inspired by winemaking. The name Ciroc combines the French word chim and roche, cime meaning peak and roche meaning rock, a tribute to the high-altitude vineyards in France's Gaillac region, where the grapes are sourced. Launched by Diageo, Ciroc was positioned as a premium alternative in the vodka market, offering a fresh take on traditional vodka production. Diddy's relationship with Diageo began as a groundbreaking business move, when in 2007, Diddy entered into a strategic partnership with the company to promote Ciroc vodka, a brand that was struggling to gain traction at the time. And through his influence and brand power, Diddy would transform Ciroc into one of the top-selling vodkas in the US, selling more than 2 million cases a year. By 2014, Diddy and Diageo would expand their partnership to include Deleon tequila, which they jointly owned and promoted. Diddy's influence was pivotal to Ciroc's success, with aggressive marketing strategies and frequent integration of the brand into his music, nightlife, and social media presence.
An exclusive event happening at the Combs estate tonight, sponsored by...
Kurwa, nie piłem nigdy Ciroc w ogóle. Da się to w Polsce dostać? Ciroc, wódka. 150 zł za 0,7, ta. Przecież kurwa, aż takiej tragedii nie ma.
It's the greatest, the best. If you're gonna do it right.
You
see the palm trees, you see how we out here doing it, and we wanted y'all to all be invited. Countdown has begun. It'll be 2012 in like 6 hours. You know, you're ready. The countdown has begun. But I'm gonna be coming to y'all live, so you know when you view it, retweet it. Let's get it viral, because we're going to rock the new year, baby.
Initially, the partnership was valued at $100 million and structured in a way that allowed Diddy to take a share in the brand's profits. But by the time the lawsuit surfaced, the partnership had been ongoing for nearly 16 years, highlighting the significant role that Diddy had played in Diageo's spirits portfolio. In the lawsuit, Diddy alleged that Diageo systemically treated his brands as urban products, a label that restricted Ciroc and Deleon's distribution and marketing opportunities. He claimed that Diageo typecasted his brands and limited them to certain geographic areas and demographics, which prevented them from reaching the same level of exposure as Diageo's other celebrity-backed products, such as George Clooney's Casamigos tequila. Clooney's brand was actually purchased by Diageo for $1 billion in 2017 and was allegedly prioritized and widely promoted without the same limitations placed on Diddy's brand. Diddy argued that Diageo's failure to invest in Ciroc and Deleon on the same scale as other brands was a clear indication of racial bias. According to the lawsuit, Diageo representatives had used racially discriminatory terms.
Kurwa, ale nie... Trochę niefortunny błąd przez automatyczne napisy, ale nie racial bias, tylko racial bias, jak coś.
Buyers. According to the lawsuit, Diageo representatives had used racially discriminatory terms to describe the brands, implying that they were only relevant to specific urban or black consumer markets. Diddy argued that this not only limited their market potential, but also tarnished the brand reputation that he had worked hard to cultivate. Diageo would quickly respond to the lawsuit, categorically denying the accusations of racism, and the company would claim that any disputes in the partnership stemmed purely from business disagreements, and argued that the lack of investment in DeLeon was due to Diddy's own reluctance to make necessary contributions himself, apparently not consistently funding DeLeon in line with the brand's growth needs, investing only $1,000 while Diageo had invested over $100 million to grow DeLeon tequila. Furthermore, Diageo accused Diddy of demanding large payouts whilst threatening to publicly accuse the company of racism. For instance, in May 2021, after Diageo publicly committed $100 million for COVID recovery programs to help pubs and bars resume post-lockdown trade, Diddy allegedly demanded $100 million for himself, warning that he would reach out to every news outlet and burn the house down by accusing Diageo of racial discrimination if they didn't comply. Diddy's attorney John C. Houston would respond by saying Diageo dismissed Diddy's genuine concerns as threats. Had they honored their agreements, Houston argued, we wouldn't be in court today. Diageo denied Diddy's accusations about watermelon tequila and racial stereotyping, asserting that the flavor was actually suggested due to Ciroc Summer Watermelon's big success. They also refuted claims of targeting Ciroc and DeLeon as ethnic brands, explaining the urban African-American brand was just a misperception that had been noted by an external consultant. The legal dispute would escalate when in July 2023, a New York Supreme Court judge ordered the unsealing of redacted details from Diddy's lawsuit. These documents revealed a 2021 agreement between Combs and Diageo, in which the company reportedly agreed to treat DeLeon.
Tutaj jak coś pewnie się zaczyna od tych wojażów biznesowych, a później przechodzimy do tego bardziej pojebanego gówna, bo to rzeczywiście ostatnimi czasy, no mówię jakby o czasach teraźniejszych, nie? Co się działo przez ostatnie lata z Diddym, no to największe te sprawy sądowe, no to były z tą wódką. To też kojarzę, że tam dużo informacji na ten temat latało.
This agreement, according to Diddy, was evidence that Diageo had acknowledged past failures in not supporting DeLeon, but had not made good on their promises. The unsealed documents also included internal communications that Diddy claimed were indicative of racial bias, though the specific language used in these communications was not publicly released. The documents intensified the media's focus on the case and added a layer of scrutiny regarding Diageo's handling of celebrity partnerships, especially those with minority figures. After months of legal back and forths, Diddy and Diageo would reach a settlement in January 2024, and as part of the agreement, Diddy basically withdrew his lawsuit and severed ties with Diageo, ending a 16-year partnership that had transformed both Ciroc and DeLeon into major names in the spirit industry. But according to the settlement terms, Diageo had acquired full ownership of both Ciroc vodka and DeLeon tequila, with no further public comments from either party on the financial details or specific conditions of the agreement. The lawsuit and subsequent settlement would spark a broader conversation about race and representation in the spirits industry. Diageo shares actually dropped 20% over the year, and the company hoped that announcing its settlement with Diddy would clear the cloud of uncertainty affecting its stock. While we might never know the actual details of this potential payout, in reality, it's possible that this result was actually a monumental loss for Diddy, who despite years of promoting black ownership and his business acumen, ultimately wound out with no ownership in these brands, no stake in Ciroc, and nothing to do with these huge brands that he had spent over a decade building up. And it's highly possible that around about this time, Diddy ended up in a very weak negotiating position as a result of the brewing storm in his personal life, making any brand association with him completely terminal and toxic. And with their separation finalized, things seemed to finally settle for Diddy, but it was only the calm before the storm, because just as the dust from the Diageo lawsuit would settle, Diddy's reputation would face a critical hit when in November a new lawsuit emerged that would turn his whole world upside down. The public fallout from the Diageo lawsuit was barely settling when on November the 16th, 2023, Diddy faced another explosive scandal, this time from his former girlfriend, singer Cassie Ventura. Cassie filed a federal lawsuit.
Oni w ogóle kurwę długo razem byli, nie? Oni nie byli jakoś od wczesnych lat 2000 ze sobą? Jak ona ledwo co chyba 18 skończyła?
Alleging years of severe abuse throughout their on and off relationship, which began in 2006 when she was just 19
no,
and when Diddy was 37. Cassie's lawsuit, filed under New York's Adult Survivors Act, brought forth shocking accusations that shook the music and entertainment industries. Cassie alleged that shortly after signing with Bad Boy Records, Diddy exerted complete control over her life, creating an environment where she felt trapped and isolated.
Everybody is being Cassie. Really get down to some business about just so we can be on the same page of what the plan is. As far as from Tommy's concerned, and from we're concerned as also a label, and we want Atlantic, so everybody's on the same page. So when he was doing that, I heard he also had a young lady that was with him named Cassie that had a record out, and I started hearing this record that was haunting me in the clubs, and it was it was Cassie's record, and it was I would hear it everywhere I was at. And when I saw her
and I met her and I saw this DVD on her. Hopefully we can play that. That's what kind of made me like really fall in love with the project, because I saw something more than just records. I saw something that there was a personality there. There was something that, you know, the whole world could fall in love with.
Cassie claimed that Diddy not only controlled her career, but also restricted her personal life, ensuring that she was wholly dependent on him and unable to break free from his influence. Cassie's account described Diddy's influence as suffocating, painting a picture of a power dynamic where she felt there was no escape. In her lawsuit, Cassie detailed a history of physical, sexual and emotional abuse that spanned nearly a decade. The most severe of these allegations included an incident in 2018 where she claimed that Diddy actually raped her. She described this event as the culmination of years of intimidation and manipulation, alleging that Diddy used his power and influence to repeatedly harm her without any fear of consequence. Cassie further alleged that Diddy pressured her into engaging in sexual acts with male escorts while he watched, often under the influence of drugs or alcohol. Cassie described how Diddy coerced her into these encounters, sometimes drugging her beforehand and allowing her to disassociate from these encounters and leaving her unable to fully consent or resist. This pattern of manipulation, Cassie argued, was Diddy's method of asserting control and further isolating her from any support network. One particularly notable accusation involved Diddy's alleged interference with her relationship with rapper Kid Cudi. According to Cassie, when she expressed interest in pursuing a relationship with Cudi, Diddy grew so jealous and livid, he retaliated by orchestrating the blowing up of Cudi's car.
Czajcie? Chłop kurwa wysadził Kid Cudiemu samochód z zazdrości. To jest w ogóle też coś, co wyszło podczas tego pozwu, co jest pojebane, bo wcześniej chyba nic o tym nie było.
Kid Cudi, through a representative, would later confirm that his car had indeed been destroyed in an incident that aligned with Cassie's timeline and accusations. Diddy's response to the lawsuit was swift, adamant. He vehemently denied all accusations, claiming that Cassie had attempted to extort him for $30 million before filing the suit. His legal team framed the lawsuit as a calculated attempt to smear his reputation and extort a financial settlement and commit blatant blackmail. Despite Diddy's defense, the allegations swiftly attracted intense media scrutiny, leading fans and critics alike to question his public image and past. But in a surprising turn, Diddy and Cassie would reach a settlement just one day after the lawsuit's filing. The terms were undisclosed, but Cassie requested a dismissal of the case with prejudice, meaning that she would not be able to refile her claims. Diddy's lawyer emphasized that the settlement did not imply guilt, while Cassie stated that the settlement allowed her some level of control over a deeply personal and traumatic chapter in her life. Cassie's lawsuit, though quickly settled, was pivotal as it opened the door for even more allegations against Diddy. Her case put a spotlight on Diddy's alleged history of abuse, prompting others to come forward. By the time Cassie's case concluded, it had set off a chain reaction, inspiring a wave of public statements and additional lawsuits that scrutinized Diddy's past relationships and professional conduct. Legal experts noted that her lawsuit, filed under the Adult Survivors Act, could serve as a catalyst for other survivors who had been silenced by time constraints under previous statutes of limitations. Diddy would post on Instagram denying the sexual misconduct allegations that had started to come out.
Kurwa, enough is enough by Sean Diddy Combs.
Vowing to fight the allegations and clear his name. But just months after Cassie's explosive lawsuit, the case took a disturbing turn when video evidence surfaced, adding weight to her allegations. On May the 17th, 2024, CNN released footage showing Diddy violently assaulting Cassie in a hotel hallway in Los Angeles. The video shows Diddy chasing Cassie down a hallway, cornering her as she tries to get away. And in the graphic footage...
I także przez 8 lat to nagranie kurwa nie wyciekło. To jest pojebana sprawa.
He can be seen hitting and kicking her as she lays defenseless on the ground. At one point, Diddy attempts to drag her
On tam
by the
normalnie
shirt,
skopał, kurwa, człowieku. Wziął ją, zaciągnął później do pokoju hotelowego.
forcefully pulling her across the floor as she struggles. Captured in March 2016, the video was a haunting visual confirmation of the abuse that Cassie had described in her lawsuit. The footage quickly went viral, shocking the public and intensifying scrutiny on Diddy's past actions and the dynamics of their former relationship. This brutal scene mirrored the allegations that Cassie made in her November lawsuit, where she described a similar assault that left her with a black eye. The release of the video footage brought an unsettling, real-life dimension to her accusations, shifting the narrative away from hearsay to the stark reality that we all saw in that video. Just 2 days after the footage went public, Cassie took to Instagram to address the video, and in a heartfelt post, she described the enduring impact of domestic violence on her life, stating that the abuse had broken her and left her in a permanent state of recovery. She expressed gratitude for the support that she had received, but emphasized that healing from such trauma was an ongoing battle for her. Her post underscored the emotional scars left by years of alleged abuse, giving voice to the pain that she had endured in silence. Celebrities took to Twitter in shock after viewing the graphic footage, with many expressing outrage and calling out Diddy for the brutality that he displayed in this assault on Cassie. And I'd personally like to express my own feelings about Diddy for the brutality.
50? No, I'm sure Puffy didn't do it. He's innocent. This proves nothing. This is what his lawyers are gonna say. God help us all.
That he displayed in this assault on Cassie. And I'd personally like to express my own feelings about seeing this. Domestic violence is unacceptable in any context, whether against a man or a woman.
No nie, Diddy jest kurwa turbośmieciem.
On another level. That was more than just domestic violence. The way that he beat her, kicked her defenseless body on the floor, and tried to drag her back to the room, it was like something out of a horror film, and really drove home just how depraved and disgusting Diddy is as a man. And to do this to a defenseless woman is unforgivable. And furthermore, Diddy's initial denial of these accusations against him, contrasted with the stark reality of his character as we saw him behaving in the video, is sickening. This was the final nail in the coffin for Diddy's reputation, and there's no way that anybody could ever believe a word that comes out of his mouth after this. Just think of the contrast between his lie of a lie, the manufactured and projected image that he puts out, compared to how he was truly behaving, just says it all. When I saw that video, it made me believe nearly every accusation against him for the last 33 years.
jak ja zobaczyłem to nagranie, mówię, kurwa, wszystkie plotki o Didym to jest kurwa prawda.
But it made me wonder just how much worse could he have behaved behind closed doors when the cameras were.
Stary, w holu hotelowym coś takiego odpierdolić. W sensie, nie mówię, że za zamkniętymi drzwiami lepiej, nie? Żeby była pełna jasność. Ale kurwa, no to, że on potrafi stracić kontrolę w publicznym settingu tak mocno, no to ja pierdolę.
This is no way for a man to behave, and this is not somebody who should ever be on the streets again. Not just because of that, but because of what it says about him, in combination with all of the stories that we've heard about him over the years. He's no good. Diddy would issue a statement actually addressing this incident. In a video he posted to Instagram, he expressed regret over his actions, acknowledging that his behavior had been unacceptable.
Po kurwa 8 latach, pozdro.
Behavior on that video is inexcusable. I take full responsibility for my actions in that video. I'm disgusted. But I'm committed to be a better man each and every
I'm disgusted. Kurtyna.
day. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm truly sorry.
However, his apology received mixed reactions. While some saw it as an attempt to take accountability, most
No czajcie, jakby wyciekło nagranie, że napierdalam swoją kobietę i wchodzę na kurwa, no jaki trzeba mieć tupet. Idziesz nagrywać stary kurwa filmik na Instagrama, gdzie mówisz obrzydliwe. No ty kurwa jebana, no.
Arguing that his apology only came after undeniable evidence had been released. Critics, including Cassie's lawyers, questioned whether the apology was sincere or merely damage control in response to the backlash that he had faced.
Well, Cassie Ventura's team, they put out a statement. They do not buy this video. They say in part, Combs' most recent statement is more about himself than the many people he has hurt. When Cassie and multiple other women came forward, he denied everything and suggested that his victims were looking for a payday. They go on to say that he was only compelled to apologize once his repeated denials were proven false.
The apology video.
Myślę, że te lata milczenia dość dużo mówią o tym, jakim jest człowiekiem, nie? Nie przeprosił za to, że ją pobił, on przeprosił za to, że go złapali.
The brief was widely circulated and added further fuel to the controversy surrounding Diddy's legacy and behavior. The release of this footage marked a significant moment in Cassie's case, shifting public perception in a way that very few allegations alone could have achieved. The video evidence served as a powerful testament to the abuse that Cassie had described, bringing her words to life, reinforcing the severity and accuracy of her claims. It reignited discussions on domestic violence, particularly within high-profile relationships, and emphasized the challenges that victims face when seeking justice against influential figures. For Diddy, the footage was a critical blow to his reputation. Once known as a titan in the music industry, his image was now marred by the undeniable evidence of physical abuse, and the video added another layer of credibility to Cassie's allegations, making it much harder for Diddy to simply dismiss her claims as part of a smear campaign or extortion attempt, as he had previously suggested. Diddy did it. He said he didn't do it, we saw him do it. The footage continued to circulate on social media and news outlets, leaving an indelible impact on public opinion and intensifying calls for accountability. As the legal proceedings moved forward, the footage would stand as one of the most damning pieces of evidence against Diddy in his career, complicating any efforts that he might try to rebuild his public image. But for Cassie, this exposure represented a vindication of her claims and a step towards reclaiming her narrative, empowering her and other survivors who face similar struggles. And soon, more explosive accusations would land on Diddy, further tearing down this facade that he had projected to the public for decades.
I teraz kolejne pozwy, które są jeszcze bardziej pojebane.
That emerged just months after Cassie Ventura's explosive lawsuit, Rodney Lil Rod Jones Jr., a Chicago-based music producer, would file a federal lawsuit against Diddy. This lawsuit would accuse Diddy of running a criminal enterprise involving drugs, guns, sexual exploitation of minors, escalating the scrutiny on Diddy's lifestyle and alleged misconduct to scary new heights. According to USA Today, Lil Rod claimed that his professional relationship with Diddy quickly spiraled into a disturbing environment of coercion.
So, did he do it? No kurwa, he probably did it. No, dzięki Pandur za 42 miechy. Witam, Czarny Gandalf.
And abuse. Lil Rod's lawsuit paints a harrowing picture
Nie najlepsza klatka, żeby się przywitać z takim nikiem.
The Love album Off the Grid in 2022. What apparently begun as a standard music production gig allegedly devolved into a nightmare as Lil Rod accused Diddy of forcibly touching him, attempting and/or threatening to make further sexual advances, and using his power to coerce Lil Rod into acts.
A propos homoseksualności Diddy'ego, to już też ploty od lat latały, więc
that he did not consent to. Diddy allegedly exploited his control over Lil Rod by not only forcing him to procure drugs and arrange encounters workers, including minors, also recording these encounters. The lawsuit claims that Diddy's threats of violence kept Lil Rod in constant fear, forcing him into compliance despite his discomfort. The lawsuit also extended accusations to Diddy's close associates, including his son Justin Dior Combs and Christina Karam, Diddy's chief of staff at Combs Global Enterprises. Lil Rod alleged that Justin and Christina actively participated in what he described as a venture where they solicited sex workers, some even being underage, and provided women with DeLeon liquor laced with ecstasy before subjecting them to degrading acts in Diddy's presence. This alleged criminal enterprise involved multiple members of Diddy's circle, each tasked with roles designed
Myślisz, że przyjmował Christiana od tyłu? Myślę, że przyjmował.
Diddy's purported desires. According
I to bez zgody posiadacza Christiana.
Stevie J, a Grammy Award-winning producer and longtime associate of Bad Boy Records, was also involved. The lawsuit claims that Diddy exploited Lil Rod's admiration for Stevie J to groom him, even sharing a video that allegedly showed Stevie J in an explicit act with another man. This manipulation, according to the lawsuit, was part of Diddy's coercive tactics to maintain control over Lil Rod. One particularly...
Czajcie, Epstein-style, chłop rzekomo miał nagrania, kurwa, kompromitujące połowę branży, żeby mieć jakiś leverage w negocjacjach. To jest popierdolone.
Allegation in Lil Rod's lawsuit involved an encounter on Thanksgiving Day 2022 at Diddy's Miami residence. Lil Rod claimed that Diddy, while intoxicated, offered him cocaine, which he declined before heading to the restroom. While in the restroom, a cousin of Young Miami, who is Diddy's ex-girlfriend, allegedly entered and began groping Lil Rod, performing oral on him without consent. Lil Rod reportedly pushed her away and left the restroom, but she pursued him into the open space, attempting to straddle him in front of Diddy and his staff. This incident caught on video underscored the atmosphere of forced encounters and coercion that Lil Rod described as
Widać, że Epstein skończył, no przecież Diddy'ego też od razu na Suicide Watch postawili.
Time working with Diddy. Lil Rod's lawsuit also implicated other public figures, including actor Cuba Gooding Jr., who allegedly groped him during a yacht party hosted by Diddy. Photos surfaced showing Diddy and Gooding together shortly before the alleged assault, further fueling speculation about the conduct at these high-profile gatherings, with another picture being presented in the lawsuit purporting to have been taken during the alleged assault. Beyond the assault allegations, Lil Rod also named industry executives as defendants in the lawsuit, such as Universal Music Group CEO Lucian Grange and Ethiopia Haptemariam, the former CEO of Motown Records, which is the parent company of Diddy's Love Records. These accusations would suggest a broader network of complicity within the entertainment industry, bringing into question the accountability of executives who are indirectly connected with the alleged action. Lil Rod would claim that he lived at Diddy's home for nearly a year while working on the Love album, a period marked by continuous intimidation and manipulation. He would allege that he's often subjected to threats of violence if he refused to comply with Diddy's demands. In the lawsuit, Lil Rod states that he feared for his life after a violent altercation at the studio involving Diddy, his son Justin Combs, and an unidentified African-American male referred to as only G. This altercation would ultimately lead to G being shot. The lawsuit claims that Diddy then gave explicit instructions to tell the police that he had no involvement in the shooting, and pressured Lil Rod to lie to the authorities by stating that G had been shot in a drive-by while standing outside the studio. Afterwards, Lil Rod would reportedly become a target of both Stevie J and Love Records A&R DeForest Taylor, who, according to the lawsuit, sent him threatening messages after Lil Rod publicly requested that Diddy compensate him fairly for his work. This intimidation came in response to Lil Rod's decision to go public with his grievances, calling on Diddy to do the right thing and pay him. Moreover, in the lawsuit, Lil Rod claims that he was forced to watch as Diddy displayed his guns and bragged about getting away with shooting people. This actually led to Diddy apparently admitting that he was responsible for the shooting in the nightclub that got Shine 10 years in prison, as we covered earlier in this video. Diddy allegedly used these stories to further intimidate Lil Rod, reinforcing a sense of power that left him feeling trapped. The lawsuit went into extensive detail about the roles of other members of Diddy's circle in maintaining this alleged criminal enterprise. Stevie J, allegedly responsible for recruiting sex workers and participating in freak-offs. Justin Combs, allegedly soliciting prostitutes and underage girls while also participating in Diddy's gatherings. Brendan Paul, accused of serving as Diddy's mule and handling drugs and firearms. Frankie Santella,
what in the AI się tu odjebało?
Brendan Paul, accused of serving as Diddy's mule and handling drugs and firearms. Frankie Santella allegedly assisted Brendan by carrying cash for gun and drug transactions. Moy Bourne allegedly hired sex workers and attended freak-offs with Diddy. Christina Coram, likened to the role of Ghislaine Maxwell in the operation, facilitating arrangements and acting as the central coordinator. Jose Cruz, Diddy's IT specialist, who allegedly recorded incriminating acts while maintaining a low digital profile to avoid detection. Lil Rod would further explain that speaking out against Diddy had severely impacted his financial stability, leaving him without a reliable source of income and struggling to cover his monthly expenses. He expressed how the decision to pursue justice had led to what he feels is an industry-wide blackballing, isolating him professionally and causing significant emotional distress, including prolonged periods of suicidal thoughts. Music, he shared, has been his only lifeline. Lil Rod would state that he had a completed album ready for release, but he lacked the financial means to market or distribute it. He noted that industry figures appeared reluctant to associate with him, likely due to the legal controversies surrounding Diddy uploading a GoFundMe video explaining his plight.
I apologize to anyone. This video may be embarrassing too. Let's just jump right into it. Some of you may know me or may not. I'm a music producer.
Diddy skołował całą pierdoloną mafię. Stary, mafię, kurwa, potencjalnie zastraszał ludzi. Stary, brał, kurwa, producentów i ćpał ich jakimiś ciężkimi prochami, żeby później, kurwa, jakieś kompromitujące rzeczy na niego być pojebane. To jest dosłownie, kurwa, to, co robił Epstein.
Gospel and jazz and R&B and worked my way over to the hip-hop side. I've been working on an album. I took a year off straight working on this album. That album is the Love album.
Tylko bez wyspy, no?
By Diddy. And it's Grammy nominated right now as we speak. I should be celebrating, but the truth is I'm not. Taking this album on has required so much time, you know, months and at a time, 16 hours, 24 hours a day. Sometimes, you know, Diddy will request certain works to be done and tell us don't go to sleep until it's done. And the truth is we'll be up for days trying to accomplish that. I've tried to get my business straight with them on this album, but the truth
Ciekawe, ile jest podobnych ludzi na przykład za kulisami Hollywood. No też ja nigdy jakoś nie wdawałem się w te teorie spiskowe, ale szczerze z każdą kolejną taką sytuacją, która wychodzi, no jestem przekonany, że jest co najmniej jeszcze parę takich, co kurwa robią jakieś pojebane rzeczy za kulisami. Stary, po całej sytuacji z Epsteinem, po sytuacji kurwa z Diddym i wszystkimi zarzutami, jakie na niego mają, jest to popierdolone. Gdzie Diddy, pomimo tego, że no był kurwa praktycznie miliarderem i miał bardzo duże kontakty, no to jednak nie był największą osobą w show biznesie, więc pytanie, co robi ktoś, kto stoi jeszcze wyżej, nie? Jak zaczniesz drążyć, to szybko przestaniesz, będziesz miał nogi połamane, no. Dobrze, że Trablor Ross żyje w Wielkiej Brytanii, a ja w Polsce, nie?
The producer fee, pennies, and on top of that, these guys are trying to steal my publishing. I can't go for that, so I'm fighting back. He's a fighter, but I'm gonna put in this fight. I gotta do it for myself, my rights, and most importantly, my kids. Taking my publishing or stealing it is I'm not gonna let that happen. From me, I've missed holidays with my family, just out working on this album. At what point I was running around with the hard drives, the computer, just to run the ball on this album to finish.
Później sprawdzimy Czarny Gandalf. Póki co się zajmujemy tym.
This album came to, you know, a good project with good vibes, just where it is right now.
Great vibes.
And just to be offered little to no participation in this is highly disrespectful. I won't be that guy 20, 30 years from now, looking back saying, I wish I'd done this. I'm gonna do this now. Doing this situation is not easy. Taking Puff to court, suing him is not easy. I don't have the monies that it's gonna take to fight him in court.
Ale Susko powiedział monies. I don't got the money.
Asking, you know, if you're in support, please. The link is in my bio. To my GoFundMe. The money will go towards my attorney fees and to just make sure I'm keeping my head above water during the process. I really appreciate this. Thank you so much.
In response to the lawsuit, Diddy's attorney
Kurwa, naprawdę nie miał żadnego kontaktu, do którego mógłby się odezwać, kto by mu pomógł z taką sytuacją, szczególnie jak jest tyle osób, które chciały podkopać Diddy'ego, że musiał GoFundMe zakładać?
Rod's claims as pure fiction, accusing him of seeking media attention and a quick settlement. I guess like a couple of other dozen lawsuits where Diddy said the same thing. According to the attorney, Lil Rod failed to plead to the most basic facts, such as where and when any purported instance of assault occurred or what allegedly transpired. I mean, the paperwork looked pretty clear to me, maybe you can't read. Should the case proceed to trial, it could reveal further details about Diddy's private life and the internal dynamics of his business ventures. This new wave of accusations
To jest ciekawe, kogo Diddy może wsypać, skoro ma tak dużo różnych ludzi.
underscores a recurring theme in recent cases against powerful figures in entertainment, with a growing focus on exposing abuse of power and the hidden layers of celebrity
Kurwa, serio?
influence
R. Kelly
in
to jest
entertainment,
Robert
with growing-
Kelly? Dla mnie to jest news, okej.
Focus on exposing abuse of power and the hidden layers of celebrity influence. Following Lil Rod's accusations, on October the 16th, 2024, two major record labels, Universal Music Group and Motown Records, would fight back against claims that they were complicit in funding Diddy's alleged drug-fueled sex trafficking operations. They would demand sanctions against New York attorney Tyrone T.A. Blackburn and his client Rodney Lil Rod Jones, who had sued Diddy earlier in February. In the suit filed, Lil Rod had alleged that he was by Diddy and forced to engage in acts with prostitutes. Blackburn's lawsuit had also implicated UMG and Motown, accusing them of knowingly financing Diddy's illicit activities. According to Blackburn, the labels were aware that Diddy's lifestyle involved heavy drug use, misconduct, and illegal activities, and yet still supported him financially through a business partnership with his Love Records label in 2022.
No jest taka szansa, że jakby Diddy zaczął sypać, to nagle by się odpaliło domino, ale to jest jeszcze dalej, kurwa, bardzo możliwe, nie?
Labels would fire back, calling the allegations meritless and saying that Blackburn was litigating the case in bad faith. They would argue that their
Jestem w chuj ciekawy, jak to się rozwiąże finalnie.
connection to Diddy was purely contractual, with no involvement in his personal dealings and would...
Ale absolutnie bym się nie zdziwił, gdyby nagle w jakiś sposób popełnił wiecie co, wiecie gdzie.
Request sanctions to deter similar cases. Diddy's attorney, Erica Wolf, would also back the labels, accusing Blackburn of unprofessional conduct and exploiting the legal system to promote himself. In response, Blackburn would reveal that he had met with federal prosecutors 9 times regarding Diddy's criminal case, hinting that a superseding indictment could soon implicate more individuals tied to Diddy's alleged. But because the legal battle is still ongoing, US District Judge J. Paul Oaken would refrain from ruling on the motion for sanctions, while Diddy's defense team would seek to dismiss Lil Rod's complaint, labeling it an exaggerated attempt to turn a business dispute into a criminal conspiracy. Ultimately, on September the 17th, 2024...
Ale nic jeszcze o Miku nie było swoją drogą, a to było chyba w tym pozwie od producenta.
And other offences a little while after a dramatic raid on his properties. After 34 years of pain inflicted on countless people, it seems that it's finally time for Diddy to face justice. While the accusations in this indictment are seemingly just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to the alleged criminal activities of Diddy, it's good to see that this man, who believed that he was above the law for so long, finally getting his comeuppance. In the course of making this video, it only strengthened my beliefs that Diddy is one of, if not the most dangerous man to ever come from the hip-hop culture. There's been killers, gangsters, and abusers in hip-hop plenty of times, but for this man to build an empire of criminality,
Prawda.
abusing the court system and using his vast wealth to silence good people just doesn't sit right with me. I'm somebody with a strong sense of morals and an understanding of what's truly right and wrong. And from everything that I've learned about Diddy, it's my belief that this man is a genuine psychopath who from
Czy on
decades
wrzucił takie chujowe AI zdjęcia do filmu? Stary, ten film ma 1,5 godziny, karem są slag.
never being told no, always getting what he wants,
Może nie
and
wyłapał,
avoiding
no.
responsibility every time, thinks he can do whatever he wants. Diddy doesn't believe in consent. He thinks that he's a god and that you should be lucky to even be in his presence. He's somebody who thinks he can do anything to you and you should just sit there and take it because he's the almighty Diddy. I personally think he's an absolutely abhorrent person. His image and legacy is completely tarnished, and he's likely to go down as hip-hop's Harvey Weinstein. After everything he's achieved, all the hit records, all the money he's made, all of the alcohol, cheap clothes, and other junk businesses that he's hocked, he will ultimately be remembered for being an abuser, a snake, a creep. And I honestly hope that he spends the rest of his life in prison. Because really, a world without Diddy on the streets is a safer and better world for everyone in it. I hope you found this video interesting. If you want to see more about Diddy, let me know in the comments. And if this video does well, I'll be back with a couple more exposés on Diddy. We'll be following the case closely, and when more facts come out, I'll be sure to bring you a full breakdown. But until then, my thoughts and prayers are with the victims and the families that suffered at the hands of Diddy for decades.
Mocny materiał, ale skupił się bardziej na faktach, nie? Bo tam było dużo właśnie jeszcze spekulacji a propos mików, nie mików. Tam dużo się przewijało tematów tymi pozwami.
Diddy? P. Diddy?
I tym, co się potencjalnie działo na tych jego imprezach.
Why'd you move to LA?
Oh, for the kids, the family, the weather.
All lies will be exposed. That's all. And
Damn, Cat Williams wszystko przewidział na początku roku. Pojebane.
the wrong way, know why they take it the wrong way.
Justin, you ever seen the movie 48 Hours? Right now, he's having 48 hours with Diddy, him and his boy. You know, where we hanging out and what we doing, we can't really disclose. But for the next 48 hours, he's with me. So, and we gonna go full crazy.
Going crazy.
Crazy.
There are some new lawsuits accusing Sean Diddy Combs of sexually assaulting 2 boys, one of them very young.
Related to music mogul Sean Diddy Combs, major new allegations today of sexual assault and exploitation by Combs, who say they were minors when they were allegedly assaulted by a music star.
Minors, nie wiem,
The
ale
youngest
śmieszne.
allegedly just 9
That's a
years
different
old.
type of party, though.
Zjebany kurwa górników abuzował.
You need alcohol.
Right, alcohols, right, some water, a lot of heat. You don't have no air conditioning. Good music, and you need me, of course.
Yes, you spice up the party.
Diddy told her that he wanted to engage in a fantasy of his called voyeurism. He said it would turn him on if he saw Cassie with another. He allegedly forced her to engage in sex with male sex workers while he would.
Basically, he would tell me what to do with Cassie. I had like 15 encounters, and I heard a lot of business. Because what they would do is Sean talks a lot on the phone and on the TV with speakers and stuff, and I was like a slave. Okay, for them, that's what I was.
There are many
That's
dirty
all.
secrets. He says that his team has collected pictures, video, and that the allegations include violent assault or facilitated with a controlled substance, dissemination of video recordings, and sexual abuse of minors.
Kurwa, jeszcze jeden film rzuca? Dają. Ale myślałem, że więcej mięsa będzie a propos tych ostatnich pozwów. The video dropped yesterday, uncut on Patreon, bla bla. Nie wiem, czy on jeszcze jeden będzie wrzucał, czy nie? Go CS w końcu. No teraz na CSK przyjdziemy, proste, że tak, ale ogólnie no to był materiał, który chciałem sobie nadrobić, bo wierzę w rzetelność Traplo Rossa, ogólnie cały temat Diddy'Ego jest popierdolony.